Today, we're really digging into a specific plan for getting your finances in shape.
That's right. We've got source material here centered on the Total Money Makeover. You've probably heard of it.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty well known. And our mission today really is to unpack it for you, pull out the main ideas, the actual steps.
And maybe some of the more surprising bits. The stuff that the source claims has genuinely changed thousands of people's financial lives.
And the author is, well, pretty confident. Calls it a proven plan that works every single time.
Rooted in basic truths and everyday common sense is the claim.
But it's important to say up front, this isn't pitched as like some academic theory or a way to get rich overnight.
No, not at all. The material makes it really clear this is a practical system, something used by, tens of thousands of ordinary people?
Exactly. It's framed as, transformation through actually doing things, deliberate action.
Okay, let's get into it. The core philosophy. It kind of starts with a bang, doesn't it? This idea that winning with money is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge.
That's the absolute foundation. The source basically says the biggest problem isn't the stock market or your boss or tricky financial stuff. It's you.
Puts you right in the driver's seat. The king of your future, as it says.
Which, yeah, can feel a bit blunt. But the argument is that directness is why it supposedly works. It's simple, it cuts through the noise, and gets to the heart of your money problems.
Yeah, and it doesn't pretend it's easy. It says you have to pay a price. All winners pay a price to win.
Right. And it even tackles criticism head on, calls it fun.
Fun. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, the idea is if you're getting criticized for changing your money habits, it means you're hitting a nerve. You're actually doing something different, pursuing truth. It even mentions that Aristotle quote.
Oh, the one about to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing?
That's the one. So, yeah, if people raise eyebrows when you start budgeting or cutting debt, maybe you're doing something right, according to this plan.
It all ties into that long-term view, doesn't it? What you sow, you will reap.
Exactly. It contrasts that immediate gratification thing, want it now, which it calls immature with maturity, being willing to delay pleasure for a greater result.
And it argues our whole culture pushes us towards the live for the now mindset.
Which often leads straight to debt, yeah. But the flip side, the promise, is huge.
Right. For those who stick with it, the source claims a new life of financial freedom. Lives changed forever. That's the big payoff.
Absolutely. But, okay, before you even start the steps, there's this major obstacle you got to face first.
Like getting in shape physically, right? First, admit you need to change, then figure out what's stopping you.
Precisely. And the biggest obstacle highlighted here.
Denial.
Denial. The source says it's surprisingly easy, especially in places like the U.S., to be sort of financially average, financially flabby, and feel okay because everyone else is too. But this plan isn't for average, it says. It's for winners. And winning starts with honesty.
90% of solving a problem is realizing there is one. That quote really stuck with me.
It's powerful. And the story of Sarah illustrates it perfectly.
Yeah, she thought she was doing fine, part of that 30% not living paycheck to paycheck, until
the layoff hit. Then she had to look reality in the face.
Yeah.
And it wasn't pretty. Financially fat, as the source puts it. No savings, lots of payments, pure denial beforehand.
And it's tricky, isn't it? The source points out how friends and family can sometimes, maybe unintentionally, help keep that denial going.
Yeah, they participate in the fantasy, maybe because they don't want to rock the boat or face their own situation.
And here's a counterintuitive point. The source suggests that if things aren't currently blowing up financially, you might be in more danger.
Because of apathy, right. If everything seems just fine, you're less likely to make those big necessary changes. You have to really feel the need.
Which brings us to the frog in the pot analogy. Zig Ziglar's story. Frog legs. Yeah. Drop a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. Heat it up slowly.
It doesn't notice the danger until it's too late. Complacency.
And the source warns that financial mediocrity can sneak up on you, just like that. Just fine becomes the enemy of doing what's best for your future. Health, fitness, finances, they can all erode gradually.
That really hits home.
Yeah.
Okay, so you face reality, broken through denial. What's the actual plan?
It's all about the baby steps. A series of actions done in order.
Like eating an elephant one bite at a time. Don't try to do it all at once.
Exactly. Trying to do everything on day one, like hitting every machine at the gym, just leads to burnout and failure.
And the sequence matters. The source is really firm on this. Focus only on the step you're on. No jumping ahead, even if retirement feels urgent while you're still deep in debt.
Right. It argues that trying to shortcut the process actually makes you more likely to fail long term. And there's one tool you need right from the start and all the way through.
The budget.
The written budget, done every month. Specifically, a zero-based budget, meaning every dollar gets a job, right? Income minus outgo equals zero.
Yep. Give every single dollar a name before the month begins. The claim is this takes the stress out of money because you're telling it where to go instead of wondering where it went.
Okay, let's walk through these steps. Baby step 1.
Save $1,000 cash. Fast. That's your starter emergency fund.
The rainy day fund, the source is pretty blunt. It is going to rain.
Life happens. Job loss. Car breaks down. Kid needs braces. Something unexpected will come up. That stat is sobering. 78% of people have a major negative event in a 10-year span.
And $1,000 isn't going to cover, like, major surgery.
No, but it catches the little ones. It stops a $500 car repair from forcing you back into using a credit card and derailing your whole plan.
In case of emergency, break glass. A visual reminder. Keep it accessible, but make it a little harder to just grab for pizza money. Build that small cushion quickly.
All right, $1,000 saved. Baby step 2. The debt snowball. This is where you go to war with debt. Consumer debt, specifically. Not the mortgage yet.
And the key idea is that your income is your best wealth-building tool.
Absolutely. Every dollar going to a minimum payment is a dollar not building your future. Get rid of those payments, free up that income, and you can start building wealth surprisingly fast.
So the method, list debts smallest balance to largest. Pay minimums on everything except the little one.
And attack that smallest one with everything you've got. Sell stuff, work extra hours, cut expenses way back once it's gone.
You take all the money you were paying on it, the minimum plus the extra, and add it to the minimum payment of the next smallest debt.
Creating that snowball effect, it gets bigger and faster as you go.
And the source emphasizes this is more about behavior than math, right? Paying highest interest first might save a few bucks, but
the quick wins keep you motivated. Paying off a whole debt, even a small one, feels good. It gives you momentum. It's behavior modification at its core.
But there's a crucial rule here.
Non-negotiable. You have to stop borrowing, period. Draw a line in the sand. And the source warns you will be tested on this.
Which leads to the plastectomy.
Yeah. Cut of the credit cards. Now, the argument is you need a permanent change in your view of debt. You can't dig your way out of a hole by keeping the shovel.
What if someone's looking at their budget and there's literally zero extra money to throw at that first debt?
Get radical. That's the advice. Start selling things. Stuff you don't need, maybe even stuff you like.
Things that make your broke friends question your sanity, like goldfish, Harleys, cars.
Yep. The rule of thumb given is if you can't pay off an item, besides the house, in 18-20 months, sell it. Dynamite the logjam. Free up cash.
It's that live like no one else now, so later you can live like no one else idea again. Sacrifice now for freedom later.
Exactly. And sometimes that means temporarily pausing retirement contributions.
Even if there's a company match, that feels hard.
It does. Mathematically, a match is great. But the source argues that the focus, the gazelle intensity needed to get out of debt fast, is behaviorally more important for the total makeover. Get debt-free, then wrap up investing. It's a temporary pause for long-term gain.
There's even a mention of divine favor for moving in the right direction.
Yeah, the source includes a line suggesting that God tends to pour blessings on people going in a direction he wants them to go. It's presented as part of the encouragement to stay focused.
And step 2 is framed as maybe the most critical step.
Arguably, yes. It frees up your biggest wealth-building tool, your income. And completing it signifies a real internal shift, a total money makeover of your heart, showing you've truly rejected debt as a way of life.
Okay, so the consumer debt is gone. Feels good.
Yeah.
Baby step 3, finish the emergency fund.
Right. Now you take that initial $1,000 and build it up to cover 3 to 6 months of essential household expenses.
That's a standard recommendation, isn't it?
Pretty standard, yeah. Most financial pros suggest that range.
What kind of dollar amount are we talking usually?
The source says typically somewhere between $5,000 and $25,000. But it really depends on your situation.
More risk means more savings.
Exactly. Self-employed, single income, unstable job, chronic health issues, lean towards 6 months. Dual income, stable jobs, maybe 3 months is okay.
And the whole point is absorbing risk, right?
Completely. Because the worst time to borrow is when times are bad. If you lose your job and have no savings, you're desperate. You'll take terrible loan terms. That stat is stark. Almost half of Americans couldn't cover 1 month's expenses.
This fund is Murphy repellent. I like that.
Yeah, the idea is problems seem less likely to happen when you're actually prepared for them.
Where should you keep this money? Not under the mattress, presumably.
No, definitely not. A money market account is the recommendation. Something safe, easily accessible, maybe with check writing privileges.
Like from a bank or an investment company.
Either. The source suggests mutual fund company. Money markets often pay a bit more interest than bank ones, but the absolute key is safety and availability, not earning big returns. This isn't an investment.
And the source warns against being talked into borrowing for an emergency if you have the cash saved, like Christine's story.
Right. Her banker advised a loan instead of cashing a CD for a car repair. Bad advice. Even with a penalty, cashing the CD would have been way cheaper than the loan interest. Emotions and bad advice cost money.
Having the fund changes everything. A big problem becomes just an inconvenience.
Totally. Broken furnace is a disaster when you're broke. When you have the emergency fund, it's annoying. You write a check, you move on.
Are there times you might pause working on building this fund back up?
Yeah, if you see a storm coming, like you know you're having twins or a layoff is announced, you might hold off on aggressively rebuilding the fund to handle the immediate foreseeable thing. Use the fund if needed, then rebuild it after things stabilize.
And this step really requires everyone in the household to be on the same page.
Crucial. Sherry's story highlights this. Her husband wanted to dip into their emergency fund while still keeping a big truck payment. That showed he wasn't fully bought in. The makeover has to be total for everyone involved. Fear of being without the fund actually helped motivate him in the end.
The peace of mind alone is a huge return.
Definitely. The source calls it a great return on investment, specifically mentioning the peace it brings.
And before we move on, there's baby step 3B.
Yes. Saving for a house down payment. This comes after steps 1, 2, and 3 are done. Don't try to buy a house while you're still digging out of debt or only have $1,000 saved. Creative financing in that stage just means too broke to buy a house.
Got it. Okay, so before we hit the wealth building steps, the source takes a pretty big detour into money myths.
Yeah, a whole section dedicated to debunking common financial beliefs it calls lies our culture believes.
The idea being we've been sort of lulled into accepting bad habits.
Because these myths get repeated often enough, loudly enough, and long enough. The source asks you to just let your guard down and consider a different viewpoint, pointing to the results others have gotten.
All right, let's tackle some of these. Myth number 1, debt is a tool.
The source flat out rejects this, the argument. Debt adds huge risk, rarely leads to real wealth, and wealthy people don't use it the way we're often told.
It pushes back against the whole leverage and OPM idea.
Strongly. Calls it sophisticated sounding, but ultimately dangerous. Debt brings on enough risk to offset any advantage. That's the bottom line presented.
And this comes from personal experience, right? The author's own bankruptcy.
Yes, the source is clear that this perspective came after losing everything. It took that intensive care wake-up call to see the danger, and it quotes Proverbs. The borrower is slave to the lender.
Okay, myth 2. Co-signing a loan helps someone out.
Truth, according to the source. Be prepared to pay it yourself. The bank wants a co-signer because they don't trust the borrower.
If the bank won't lend to them, they're trouble just looking for a place to happen.
Pretty much. Co-signing is framed as an emotional, dumb move that enables bad behavior. And the consequences for you, the co-signer? Wrecked credit, maybe having to pay the difference after repossession. It's bad news. And a divorce doesn't get your name off that loan.
Myth 3. Payday loans, rent to own, that kind of stuff helps people with low incomes.
The source uses incredibly strong language here. Rip-off examples, predatory lending, scum of the scum.
Wow.
Yeah. The reality check is the insane interest rates way over 100%. Rent to own averaging over 1,800% APR. Avoid at all costs. They prey on vulnerable people. You don't see these places in wealthy neighborhoods.
Myth 4. 90 days, same as cash deals, are basically free money.
Nope. Not the same as cash at all. It's a marketing gimmick tied to that urge to buy things we don't need with money we don't have. You know the rest.
And the story about financing a dog.
Yeah. Crazy stuff happens when borrowing feels easy.
Myth 5. Leasing a car is the smart, sophisticated way to go.
Per the source and consumer groups it cites. It's the most expensive way to operate a vehicle. You're paying for the massive depreciation plus profit and interest.
A lease.
Exactly.
Myth 6. Getting 0% financing on a new car is a great deal.
But the car itself loses maybe 60% of its value in 4 years. That's not 0% interest on your money.
So unless you're a millionaire who just loves that new car smell.
A slightly used car is way smarter financially. The depreciation hit is compared to throwing $100 out the window every week. Ouch.
Myth 7. You absolutely need a credit score to get a mortgage.
False, according to the source. You can get a mortgage without a FICO score through manual underwriting. It takes work history, a good down payment, no other debt, and qualifying for a payment that's 25% or less of your take-home pay. Discipline, basically.
So what about the FICO score itself? The source isn't a fan.
Not at all. Calls it an I love debt score because everything it measures payment history, debt levels, new debt. It's all about how you use debt.
So if you stop using debt, your score goes away.
Exactly. It doesn't measure wealth or smarts, just your relationship with borrowing. The advice is blunt. Don't brag about your high FICO score.
Myth 8. You need a credit card for booking hotels or buying online.
Truth. A debit card works just fine for all that.
The difference being the debit card uses money you actually have.
Precisely. The source shares personal experience using debit cards everywhere. The big plus. The debit card won't get you into debt.
Myth 9. Debit cards are riskier if stolen.
Called an urban legend. Visa MasterCard rules provide the same zero liability protection for debit as credit cards for fraud.
Good to know. Myth 10. Paying off your credit card each month means you're getting free money.
Well, maybe you are, but the source points out around 60% of people don't pay it off monthly. That's who the companies make money from.
It's like playing with snakes. You eventually get bitten.
That's the analogy used. The offers exist because overall, the house wins.
Myth 11. Give your teenager a credit card to teach responsibility.
The source calls this an excellent way to teach irresponsibility. Teens are prime targets. College debt stats are grim.
It compares it to giving them a loaded gun or beer.
Yeah, pretty strong language. Calls it stupid parenting that endorses financial harm. Shares some tragic stories, too.
Myth 12. Bankruptcy is an easy, fresh start.
Nope. Described as gut-wrenching, life-changing, causing lifelong damage. The story of Larry and Susan filing 3 times shows it doesn't fix the root problem. Real change requires changing habits, not just wiping the slate.
Myth 13. Debt collectors are friendly and want to help.
No. The source says most are not your friends. Being understanding is a tactic. Credit card collectors are singled out as particularly aggressive.
Get everything in writing before paying. Never give electronic access.
Absolutely critical advice.
Myth 14. Carrying cash is dangerous.
The argument is you're being robbed every day by not using cash as power. It helps you spend less, get bargains. Mismanaging plastic is the real danger.
Myth 15. Our whole economy would collapse without consumer debt.
Called a ridiculous scenario. The source argues the economy would actually prosper with less debt. And one person's plan isn't going to eliminate all debt anyway.
Myth 16. Gold is a great investment, especially for collapse.
Poor track record, the source says. Not really useful in a true collapse. Barter comes first. Skills, food, gas. Gold's price is driven by emotion. Better hedges. Real estate you own, stored food, knowledge, skills. No get-rich-quick secrets here.
Myth 17. Cash value life insurance, like whole life, builds wealth.
Called one of the worst financial products for investing. Terrible returns. The advice. Buy cheap term life insurance, like 10x income coverage, and invest the difference yourself.
It breaks down the costs versus returns, showing how much gets eaten up.
Yeah, the numbers presented are pretty damning for cash value as an investment.
Myth 18. The lottery or gambling can make you rich.
A tax on the poor and on people who can't do math. Harsh, but clear. Lines aren't full of rich people, it's false hope. Wealth comes from work, thrift, diligence. Poor is presented as a mindset.
And finally, myth 19. Prepaying funerals or college is a good investment.
Low returns, basically just matching inflation for that specific item. You're better off investing the money yourself in something like mutual funds, aiming for 12% historically, and paying later. Avoid those low-return prepaid plans, savings bonds, etc.
Wow. That's a lot of commonly held beliefs turned on their head. It really shows how different this approach is. Okay, so assuming you've navigated the myths, finish step 3. What's next?
You're in a pretty good spot now. Debt-free, except the house, full emergency fund. The source says you're likely in the top 5 to 10% of Americans financially.
Huge accomplishment. But there's still a danger.
Yeah, settling. Getting comfortable with good enough. The source calls this the 18-mile mark of a marathon.
Yeah.
Still got to finish strong. Keep the intensity, or at least maintain the habits. Know your weaknesses.
So moving into wealth building. Baby step 4. Invest 15% of your before-tax gross income for retirement.
Right. The goal here is long-term financial dignity. And the stats mentioned are worrying. Lots of people don't feel prepared or are unrealistic about retirement.
But the story about the guy earning under $60 who saved 10% and retired a millionaire
Shows it's possible, even on a modest income, with consistency over time. Focus on saving, not keeping up with the Joneses.
and that 15% is specific.
Yeah.
Gross income before taxes, don't count any company match.
The match is gravy, extra. And definitely don't count on Social Security. The source is really skeptical about its future, says, is your job to save for yourself?
Recommended investment vehicle?
Growth stock mutual funds. Good for the long term, 5+ years, not short term. Market history shows strong returns over time, despite the ups and downs.
The source even gives tools to figure out how much to save monthly for a specific goal, right?
Yeah, using assumptions about returns. And it really emphasizes the huge cost of delaying starting. With the potential lifetime income most people have, there's no excuse not to retire with dignity if you plan. 15% is chosen to balance retirement with the next steps.
Which are baby step 5, save for children's college fund.
Only after step 4, 15% retirement is rolling. And here, the source tackles college myths too.
Like a degree doesn't automatically equal success or wealth.
Right. It proves you pass tests, knowledge is valuable, but needs attitude, character, hard work, etc. to translate into success.
How to save for it. Leads to beat college inflation, around 8%.
So avoid those low return options again. Savings accounts, bonds won't cut it.
The recommendation.
ESAs, educational savings accounts, or 529 plans, invested in good growth stock mutual funds. They grow tax-free for education. Even $150, $200 a month per child, started early, can cover a lot.
What if you're starting late?
Creative. Cheaper schools, maybe, live on campus, eat cafeteria food, prioritize the knowledge, not just the experience, and absolutely NO student loans.
Look for work study, companies that offer tuition reimbursement like UPS.
Be resourceful. It's about getting the education, not necessarily the fancy pedigree or party scene. Teach kids these habits, maybe help the grandkids too.
Okay, retirement and college are funded. Baby step 6, pay off the home early.
This comes after 1 through 5 are done. And here, it tackles the 30-year mortgage myth.
The idea of getting a 30-year but planning to pay extra.
The source says it rarely works. Life happens. People lack innate discipline. Systems work better than intentions. Data suggests most people don't consistently pay extra on a 30-year.
But the savings on a 15-year are massive.
Huge. The example saves nearly $150,000 in interest and 15 years of payments. A 15-year forces you to pay it off in 15 years.
So if you have a 30-year, calculate the 15-year payment and just pay that amount.
Exactly. Treat it like a 15-year. Attack it. And it briefly warns against using a home equity loan as an emergency fund again here. Shares that cautionary tale of Ed and Sally losing their home.
But the ultimate goal is even bigger.
Paying cash for a house, the 100% down plan. Sounds crazy, but the source says it's very possible.
Luke's story. Saving $50K a year on an $80K income for 3 years.
Yeah, extreme living for a few years. To buy a $150K house with cash at 26. Live like no one else. Now lives like no one else. Sacrifice paid off.
And Al's story, paying off everything, including the mortgage by 31. The grass feeling different.
Powerful stuff. These stories show the emotional reward. And completing this step,
Wow.
your income is almost entirely freed up.
Which leads directly into the final step. Baby step 7, build wealth and give.
You've done it. Debt-free, house paid off, investing, college saved for. Now the work shifts to simple maintenance and seriously building wealth.
Reaching the pinnacle point.
Yeah, like finally reaching the top of that steep climb. Now you can really accelerate.
And the source says the biggest reward at this stage is
Giving. Calls it the most mature part and the most fun you will ever have with money.
more fun than golf or travel.
Apparently. The argument is you can tire of other things, but generosity remains fulfilling for a healthy person.
Wealth allows giving with scale.
Exactly. Buying 75 bikes for kids. The Santa story of turning a $20 gift received into a $10,000 gift given later. It's about impact.
And there's advice on passing wealth on, too.
Yeah, making sure it's a blessing, not a curse. Means being tough on kids about work, saving, giving. Wealth without character can be destructive. The author mentions his own kids complaining, but emphasizes teaching responsibility.
It all ties back to freedom, peace, joy, living life as intended. Keith and Karen's story, starting a business after getting debt-free.
It really brings it full circle. The whole process is about changing beliefs and actions. Your situation reflects what you've believed and done or not done. Change requires believing and doing differently.
And there are tools mentioned, right? Budget worksheets.
Yeah, practical things like the monthly cash flow plan, allocated spending plan to make that zero-based budget real.
And the breakdown of savings sheet.
That's for after the emergency fund is full. To earmark money for future goals, car replacement fund, furniture so you don't accidentally spend it, it's all about gaining control. That's where the peace comes from.
So, to wrap it up for you, the listener, we've covered this journey from changing behavior and tackling denial through the baby steps starter fund, debt snowball, full emergency fund, retirement, college, house payoff, and finally, building wealth and giving.
And the big takeaway is that this is presented as being for everyone, ordinary people. Transformation is possible. Like Keith and Karen said, if we can do this, anyone can.
So we'll leave you with this thought from the source material. When we plant a rose seed in the earth, we notice it is small. We treat it as a seed, giving it the water and nourishment required of a seed. At each state, at each moment, it is perfectly all right as it is. Think about your own financial journey. What stage are you in? And what specific nourishment does that stage need right now?